Good morning, friends. How are you? Welcome to another vlog. I've had a very busy morning, and my husband actually ended up taking care of Butters, feeding and walking her. He doesn't usually do that during the week. You know, he doesn't usually have time before work, but he had to do it today since I was out and about this morning. And I actually just filmed a shorts for this latte makeup look. What do you guys think? Obviously, it's nothing new. It is simply, I think, like a brown-toned monochromatic makeup look with a sort of summery, bronzy goddess sort of spin to it. And I really enjoy this look, as you guys know. I like a brown lip and like brown cheeks and stuff. I always struggle with my eyes though, because I think you guys can probably tell, no matter how cool toned of a powder I use or any product I use, it always ends up like warming up on my lids. And I don't know if I need to maybe put down like a lot of concealer, so I'm kind of starting with like a really blank slate, or just keep trying to find like more and more like grayer toned eyeshadows. But I thought this was pretty close to what a latte makeup look is. And this lipstick is perfect, I think, for this whole mood. This is one of those Make Beauty, like hyper pigmentation lipsticks, those really skinny ones. This is the shade Atmospheric, and it has like a little bit of warmth to it, a little bit of like a caramel spin to it. And so that's why I picked it. And I think it's like perfect for this whole vibe, this whole situation. But today, what I wanted to do was like an Ask Me Anything. So I put out an Ask Me Anything on Instagram in my stories. I just put it up. I have not even looked. In fact, I hope I have some responses. Let's actually make sure. People actually wrote in. I'm not looking. Usually I take a peek and see like what some of the questions are. I'm not taking a peek. So this is going to be really off the cuff. I obviously won't be able to answer all the questions, but I will get to as many as I can. I don't want this vlog to be too long. Yeah, I thought it was a good time to do this because, well, one, I haven't done it in a while. And in fact, I think the last time I did an Ask Me Anything, I just didn't get a chance to actually like film like a response video. I felt really bad. I was like, well, that was so stupid, Michelle. Yeah, it seems like, you know, I have some new subscribers, and because I've changed my focus on this channel like a little bit over the past, not year, but, you know, during 2023, where I'm, you know, talking about fashion and lifestyle a little bit more, not just beauty. I thought I probably have some different subscribers on here. So yeah, I thought it was a good time to do this. So I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna make myself comfortable, answer these questions. Okay, I thought maybe I would film someplace else because I always feel like I'm sitting in this same spot in my kitchen, like when I'm doing my morning rambles or like when I'm sitting and talking to you guys, but you know what? This is my spot. This is where I sit and talk to you guys. So I'm gonna stick with this spot. All right, let's go over to Instagram and see what these questions are. Okay. Oh, there's a lot, you guys. Thank you. Whoa, I just posted this. Well, let me just start with the top because this is a very, very interesting question. I'm not gonna say who the questions are from, which is why I didn't post this on YouTube in my community channel, because then people can see who wrote in the question. Not that I think any of these are like dramatic or controversial or anything like that, but you know, some people just like their privacy. Anyway, that's why I did it on Instagram. The first question is, could you live in Europe? Love you. Love you too. Yes, I could absolutely live in Europe. You know, I've only ever been there on vacation. So whenever you go anywhere on vacation, you're seeing the best parts of it. All your worries are away. But I have thought about, at least, you know, recently, since I spent some time in Paris and then Italy and then London, that I would love to maybe spend a month in Paris. 1 year, or maybe the year after that, spend a month in Florence and really just sort of enjoy Europe that way. I do find myself in this incredibly fortunate position where I can work from anywhere. My husband and I daydream about that all the time. He has a corporate, like, you know, 9-to-5 job, so he can't do that right now, but maybe should be a goal of ours. You know, we've never really thought about that. Both of us are kind of homebodies, but I don't know. Maybe it's just us having picked up from New York and moved over here. It's maybe just shaken us up a little bit, gotten us out of our comfort zone. And the idea of traveling is much more appealing to both of us. Again, it wasn't something I did a lot when I was younger. I don't know. I'm just kind of a homebody. My husband's the same way. We just like our routines and all of that. But I really wouldn't mind at least spending a month or so just to really get to know the city and really get to know the culture and the people. But yeah, I could absolutely see myself living in Europe. And in fact, I've told my husband, if for whatever reason he ever gets some sort of job offer, transfer opportunity, anything to like London, I'm like, just take it. You don't have to consult with me. just take it because I'm all over that. I just really, really like Europe, and I really like what I've seen, the cities that I've been in. They're just really, really beautiful. That's something I definitely miss living in Las Vegas. You know, New York compared to Europe is not that old, but Vegas compared to New York is like a baby. It's a baby city. And I miss that sort of really rich history and buildings that look really old and that kind of architecture. And yeah, I mean, there's obviously pros and cons to everything, but I do really miss that. So yes, to answer your question, unsuccinctly, yes, I could definitely live in Europe. Have you ever been betrayed at work? I have. My very first job out of college, I worked at Saks Fifth Avenue, and I was in their executive management program or something. Basically, you come out of it and you end up working in a buying office. And at that time, I thought that was like my dream job. I was like so excited for it, but it was not exactly what I thought it was. And now looking back, it was probably one of the worst jobs I ever had. But I remember, you know, I was kind of just girl talking with someone that I worked with. We weren't on the same team, but we worked closely together. I shared something like, oh, I went out late last night, you know, I'm so hungover today and I drank too much, something. And she went and told my boss, and my boss had, you know, pulled me into her office. And my boss, who was super cool, she basically pulled me in not to talk to me about being hungover and drinking, because she's like, whatever. But she pulled me in to tell me that this person told her that, and that I should be careful around this person. So, you know, I just sort of kept my distance from her. I obviously didn't tell her anything from there on out. And I just never really found out like why. Did she not like me? She was in a more senior position, so it's not like she wanted my job or anything. Like, I don't know. I think she was just being nasty, if you will. So yes, I have been betrayed at work. Okay. Have you tried Prada Beauty yet? No, not yet. I ordered a lipstick, maybe 2 lipsticks, I can't remember, and I ordered 2 quads. I'm waiting for the foundations to be available in the US. I believe they're available through Harrods, but you guys know, when it comes to foundation, I want to be able to readily exchange it or return it if that's a possibility. And Harrods, you know, being based in the UK, I'm like, I just don't want to have to deal with that. So I'm just waiting for it to launch on Prada.com. And I actually reached out to my sales associate on Prada and I asked, you know, are these in store? Because that would be the most ideal, right? Go in and get a shade match. But they're not going to be in store, I think he said, until the winter time. He said they're doing a huge like online push, you know, Prada.com, if you want to purchase it. I think, you know, there's a beauty and fragrance section on that site right now, but they're launching like a Prada-beauty.com. And I think that's going to be dedicated to that. And so, yeah, they're promoting that. Anyway, so I have not yet, but I will very soon. Oh, the question is, when do you want to get some steak? And I was like, well, that's awfully cheeky. It's from Alex's board. Teresa is Ded's husband. And we're always talking about how, well, they're like, well, you need to come to Florida. And I'm like, well, you guys need to come to Vegas. And, you know, so we're always going back and forth, and hopefully one of these days we'll visit. And Alex and I are always talking about, you know, grilling up some steaks, going out to eat, you know, the whole thing. Anyways, hi, Alex. Thanks for writing in. How many hours per week do you work normally? You know, that's so hard to say. So much of my long form content has turned into vlogging. And when you start vlogging, you really are working 24/7. Even when I say I am just going to vlog, not that I've ever said this, but you know, I've tried to put parameters around when I vlog, and something always comes up. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be really good in a vlog, so then I'll vlog. You know, I end up working at least a little bit every single day. I can't remember the last time I just did absolutely no work. So much of what I do, not even vlogging wise, but because it's on social media, it's like, well, when I check my Instagram and I'm checking my numbers and I'm looking at comments, that's kind of working, you know, if I'm hearting them or replying to them or whatever it is. I would say I pretty much don't work, or I try not to work after dinner, only because I'm not good. I don't think, well, when I do end up doing some work after dinner, the next day I'll look at it and be like, what was I doing? It's like, that's terrible. Like, I wasn't even in focus, like whatever it is. Or if I like am writing a blog post, I'm like, that didn't even make sense. So I try not to work after dinner because I'm just not good. But I do wake up very early, as you guys know. I usually wake up between 4 and 5 in the morning. And I may not get started immediately, but I will start vlogging or whatever. I would say I work at least 12 hours Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, it really varies, but I work every day, and it's a good thing I like what I do. Otherwise, that would be horrible. I used to work every day. So I used to have a 9 to 5 job, and then I was just starting knitting and I wanted to learn everything about it. And then I worked at a knitting store Saturdays and Sundays. So I was working 7 days a week. And that was tough. That was really, really tough because the 9 to 5 job, that was paying the bills. I just, I was kind of dialing it in, especially towards the end. And then working in a knitting store, basically working retail, is very exhausting. And you're dealing with a lot of characters, especially in New York City. But I liked that job. So it's like I didn't mind working the Saturday and Sunday, even though it was physically taxing. It was at the end of a very long week. It was the Monday through Friday that it really dragged. But anyway, I like what I do. So working 7 days a week is not that big of a deal. What is your fave snack? Okay, are you guys ready? Cheese doodles. I love cheese doodles, the crunchy ones, not the puffy ones. The crunchy ones. I'm gonna get real specific now. So the Chester Cheetos, because I love Chester. Chester Cheetos, it's like their healthy version. Every time I see it, I'm like, don't give me that shit. This isn't healthy, but it's their simply version. I think there's like less ingredients in there or something, whatever. The puffy version has like an orange front to it. The crunchy version, the bag is smaller and it has a red front to it. And it's like Cheetos simply, and then it'll say like crunchy, and then there's like Chester Cheeto on the bottom left. That's my favorite snack in the entire world. It's disgusting. It's so bad for you, but I love it. I absolutely love it. In terms of a sweet, I have a lot of sweet favorites because I'm very picky about my sweets. Like when it comes to salty stuff, I can kind of eat whatever. I'm like a real fiend for like salt and fat, but sugar, I can kind of do without. I don't have a sweet tooth. That's not my weakness. So when I do go for something sweet, I'm very specific about it. So I do like chocolate chip ice cream. Ice cream in general is kind of a weakness of mine in terms of the sweet category. And I do like cookies, but they have to be warm. They have to be chewy. I love a black and white cookie, but very specific about that too. It has to come, not it has to, but I prefer for them to come from like a kosher deli in New York. I love whoopie pies, but I reserve that for when I'm like in the New England area. I think there's like controversy about where the whoopie pie actually originated from. I think it's from Maine. I think some people say it's from Pennsylvania or something. Anyway, love a good whoopie pie. Yeah, I just like, cakes and stuff. And this may be an unpopular opinion. I know amongst my friends it is. I'm not really into cooked fruit. I would rather have fresh fruit. So while I'll eat it, it's not like I'm gonna turn away like a homemade apple pie. Not my favorite. So pies and anything fruity or whatever, that's not really my thing. So yeah, long answer for a very simple question. Someone said, how are you doing? I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you guys doing? What are your top food recommendations in New York City? Oh my God, so many. I mean, in terms of like a fancy dinner, I do really like Gramercy Tavern. I like anything Danny Meyer. Any Danny Meyer restaurant, count me in. He just has such a way of training his staff and managing the flow and like creating the best environment for a restaurant so that you feel like you are having a special dining experience, but there's no pretension. It's down to earth. You never feel like you have to get dressed up. I mean, I wouldn't show up in like a sweatsuit, but you don't feel like you have to get dressed up. It's not like what we consider like in the 80s, like fine dining. It's not like that. It's so New York, it captures New York so well. So any Danny Meyer, Maialino, is that still around? Because I think the Gramercy Park Hotel closed, which I still can't believe. It was such an amazing hotel. But Maialino was on the ground floor of the Gramercy Park Hotel. Such a great restaurant. Gramercy Tavern, Union Square Cafe, Shake Shack. These are all Danny Meyer. Love them all. You know what restaurant, which I'm so happy to know is still there, is Raoul's. So if you want like French bistro, go to Raoul's. It's in Soho. It's on Prince between Thompson and Sullivan, I think, or Sullivan and McDougal, around there. It's on that side of Prince Street. And it's just good. I have not been there in years, but I used to live down in Soho. I used to live on Sullivan Street right around the corner and would go fairly often. We would want to try different places, but that was one of my favorites. Yeah, the food was just so great. The steak au poivre, so good. And there were so French. I mean, they would give you a French menu. You had to ask for the English menu, and it's not, written on this chalkboard or whatever, because I think it changed every day. It was this really dark, kind of smoky place. And I'll never forget. So I used to be a smoker and used to be able to smoke indoors in New York, at bars, restaurants or whatever. And then they did like the smoking area, which was so stupid because most restaurants in New York are so small. And they were just switching over to no smoking indoors in New York. So you had to start asking because it was, there was like a long time when they like kind of implemented it and then said, okay, like restaurants have like 6, 9 months, 12 months, whatever, however long to like convert to like no smoking indoors. And so there was a time period where you go in and as a smoker, you would ask, like, can I smoke in here? And usually like after a certain time, like 10 p.m., 11 p.m., they were like, yeah, go ahead. Now, of course, absolutely not. But I remember asking the waiter at Raoul's, I was like, can I smoke? I think he said in a very thick French accent, I'll never forget, smoke? Of course. He's like, of course you can smoke here. We're not fascists. I was like, awesome. But anyway, Raoul's. Definitely check out Raoul's. There is a question. I didn't know if this was just a comment. So it says, I was in Vegas last week. It was hot. Capital H-O-T, exclamation point. Are you still enjoying living there? I am. I do enjoy Las Vegas. And I've talked about this before on my channel. It is very different from New York. And that was one of the reasons why we moved here. I didn't want to move somewhere where I would constantly be comparing my new life to my old life. Like if I moved to Chicago, if I moved to San Francisco, if I moved to Seattle, another sort of city. And so, not that Las Vegas isn't a city, but it's a very small, unique city. I still don't call it home. New York is still home to me. I still feel the most comfortable there. And when people ask me where I'm from, I will say New York, and I kind of stop myself. I'm like, oh, well, I live in Las Vegas, but I'm originally from New York, and most people understand. But I enjoy living here. I mean, especially compared to New York, and I would imagine bigger cities. It is a very easy place to live. There's always parking. Sometimes there's traffic. If there's like an accident, of course, traffic is bad or whatever. So there's always a little bit of traffic or whatever, but it's moving. It doesn't take you 2 hours to get, 5 miles. Everything here is big and spacious and clean. There's definitely a level of dirtiness in New York, which you just get used to. You just become blind to it. I always forget how cramped the restaurants are there. It's like you literally are sitting like right next to the other table. So it's nice here. And I'm still not used to this. It'll just be my husband and myself. So a party of 2, and they will seat us at a table for like 6 people. And I'm like, oh, thanks. Like, wow, it's a lot of room. So there's just a lot of room here. It's, of course, a lot less expensive than living in New York. But I miss New York. There's obviously a lot of aspects I miss about New York. Most of my friends are there, so I miss the people. There's definitely a grittiness and an edginess to New York, and I would say the East Coast in general versus Vegas and like the West Coast. I miss that a lot. And I was even telling my husband the other day, I was like, God, I feel like I haven't been like sarcastic in a while. I gotta whip out my snarkiness. Gotta whip that out more often. It's just not the way people communicate here. And yeah, it's just different. And I miss green and I miss water. So when I go back to the East Coast, it's like, wow, like look at all these trees. Like I forgot. Yeah, and the water. I took the water for granted. I really miss that. But like I said, I enjoy living in Las Vegas. It's just different. It's just very, very different from New York. Oh wow, this is deep. Do you believe in karma? I mean, I believe being, grateful and having a positive attitude and kind of that idea of like what you put out is what you attract. I think there's a very kind of simple viewpoint on karma where it's like, well, if you do something bad, exact same thing is going to happen to you. I don't believe that at all. And I don't even necessarily think that if you are a bad person, bad things will happen to you. It's really just about living your best life, I guess. So I do think that we're all connected. All living creatures, we're all connected, and that we become sort of like one consciousness. I don't think like a karmic situation is a very like one-to-one kind of thing. So I know that's a really roundabout way of answering, like kind of. I think what you put out there affects the world around you. It may never come back to you, but you're putting out negativity and you're going to be surrounded by it, but it may not affect you directly, if that makes sense. So that's my idea on karma. How long are you married? You know what's so funny? Today is my 16th wedding anniversary, the day that I'm filming this. So when you see this, it will have already happened. So we've been married for 16 years. And we've been together for 27 years. So we got married after a short 11 years of dating. Yeah, today is the day. 16 years. 27 years. It's crazy. It's so crazy. Like, kind of met my husband when we went to college. We both went to NYU for college, and then we started dating right after we graduated, like a year after we graduated. So yeah, known him forever. How's homeownership going? I know you owned a place in New York City, but your house is different. Wow. Okay, let's talk about this. You are correct. My husband and I owned a condo when we lived in New York, and it was in Long Island City in Queens. We loved it. I loved the location. It was so close to Manhattan, but you weren't paying Manhattan prices. We were, in this great part of Queens. You were right next to the East River. They started doing the Macy's fireworks there, July 4th fireworks, like literally at the end of our block. It was just great. They built up the Riverside, like a huge park, both state and city park. They're very different, state and city parks, especially in New York. But there was like a little city park, and then most of it was like a state park, so it was like really well cared for. It was fantastic. It was great. However, we had a lot of issues while we were there. Superstorm Sandy happened, so I was actually displaced from that apartment for 5 to 6 months. It was just tough. And then the polar vortex happened, so we moved back in. And then I think that winter, the polar vortex happened, which blew like all of our heating pipes. It was a mess. It was actually more of a mess for the apartment underneath us. So anyway, we loved that apartment, and we only knew of apartment living. It was fine at that time, but we had our challenges. We moved to Vegas. We rent a townhouse. That was our first rental. It was a 2-story townhouse, 3-bedroom. More room than we've ever had, like could ever dream of. I think the apartment that we lived in New York that we owned was just short of 1,000 square feet. It was like 998 square feet or something. And it was great. It was a duplex. We had a roof deck, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. It was perfect for us. And then the townhouse that we moved into here was like 1,700 square feet. We were like, whoa, it had a pantry. Never had a pantry before. And so we started getting used to this idea of space. And so the pandemic rolled around. We were in lockdown. So we started lockdown in that townhouse. And I was like, we need a bigger space. And so we started house hunting. And anyway, we ended up in this house. This house is much larger. It's about 6,800 square feet. It's huge for 2 people. I totally see that. It is gigantic for 2 people. But we wanted to invest here in Las Vegas. It's growing a lot and all that stuff. It's changing quite a bit. I fell in love with this house. We're enjoying this space. It is a lot of house. And, I'm trying to embrace it. I'm like, taking care of this house. It's endless. There's always someone here fixing something or maintaining something or cleaning something or doing something. And I was aware that there was going to be responsibilities, especially when we first moved in. It being a new house, us getting used to it, us actually owning a home instead of a condo, which is very different because in a condo, you still have a super to the building that you can still call and say, something just happened here. You have to pay for replacements and things like that, but you have help because, the health of the building is very important. It's all up to you. So we just don't know things. So it's really been a learning curve. There's challenges, like for instance, because we live in the desert, our water bill is extremely high. They just put into place like some things, and if any of you are watching from Las Vegas, you know what's going on. But it's like, depending on what time of the year it is, and the first however many thousands of gallons you use a month, there's a certain rate and then it goes up. And because we live on a larger property than most in Las Vegas, because our house is huge, even though we only have 2 people, we like hit that threshold. And so our water bill was very large. And I'm like, okay. My husband's like, wow. He was like, we have to look into this. And I was like, I don't mind that they put that in place because we have to conserve water. We live in the desert. So that's great. It's a deterrent, and hopefully it will deter people and prompted us to like turn down our landscaping, watering, and my husband loves long showers. I'm like, you cannot anymore. Like, it's just a waste of water. I'm like, it's not even about the money. Even if I have to pay the same amount to use less water, that's what it's about. It's about using less water. So anyway, long story short, too late. There's a leak or a drip. I have a drip in the faucet of my guest bathroom. So the plumber's coming today. They're like, is that it? You want us to come out for a drip? And I was like, look, My water bill, I'm like, we're already using so much water. I'm like, I cannot have this like drip going on. And they're like, okay, we'll be out. I'm like, this is unacceptable. So anyway, home ownership has been challenging. It has been very challenging, kind of learning all the things. We had like a pool thing. It's all fixed, but it's a lot of learning. I do sometimes fantasize about moving back into an apartment building because I'm like, it's so easy. So who knows? I mean, you know, when we bought this home, I was like, oh, this is my forever home. I love this home. I love the layout. I love the fixtures that were picked because we didn't pick anything. We just moved in as it was. Like I love the flooring, the cabinet, like all the stuff. If this ever just proves to be continues to feel like just too much house for us, I would not be surprised if we were to downsize, especially if my grand ideas of like spending a month in Paris or spending a month in Florence, and if my husband is able to ever do that one day, there's absolutely no reason why we would need such a large house just sort of sitting here. It makes no sense. So home ownership, it's also very, very gratifying because when things are running smoothly, when we don't have any problems and it's just we're like in maintenance mode, it's great. It's great having friends come over. It's great having friends stay with me. As you guys know, I have friends that come all the time and they stay with me, and I love that. I love being able to host people. I love having a kitchen that I can like, you know, elbows out, like really feel like I can cook in. I don't feel crowded. The size of my kitchen is the size of, you know, most of my apartments that I lived in New York. So it's really nice. It's a luxury, I mean, to say the least. I'm enjoying it, but there are challenges. And I'm still furnishing this place. I still feel like every time I buy furniture, I'm like, that didn't change anything. Like the Restoration Hardware living room furniture was the last like big piece of furniture that I purchased. And I'm like, okay, great. Well, now I need a coffee table. Now I need end tables. Now I need to think about a light fixture. Like, I feel like every time I take a step in furnishing this place, it just sets off another, it's like a domino effect of like more things that I need to purchase if I want to kind of finish furnishing this place. I just don't think it's ever going to be fully furnished. It's just never going to happen. We've slowed down in trying to furnish everything and filling the house up with stuff. Like, we definitely have slowed down. I'm like, we have what we need. Anything else is sort of to do what we need to do. And in fact, I think our next project is going to be the backyard because it's just not finished. So I think we're going to focus on that maybe like once the weather turns cooler, have that done so it's ready for next summer. Yeah, I hope that answered your question. Let's see. Hello. Did you do any cosmetic procedures like Botox or skin boosters? I haven't. I have at-home devices. So I don't know if that counts, but as you guys know, I'm using that Nira, the Precision Pro. I think it's actually doing good things. I do have makeup on. So I have that. I have my infrared lights. I have my zip tool, which is like the micro nano current. So I do that. But in terms of like going out and getting stuff done, like I've only ever had like 3 facials. I'm just not into people poking at me. I don't like going to the dentist. It's a lot of poking at me. So no, I'm not afraid of shots, but I don't want needles in my face. That doesn't make me happy. So no, I've never gotten Botox or fillers, or I'm not even sure what a skin booster is. Maybe vitamins or something. I'm not into like micro needling. I'm not into, I don't know. And never say never. Who knows? Maybe in a couple years I'll get into it. Right now I'm just, this is kind of au naturel. I mean, which you can tell. Look at these wrinkles. I don't think I would have these if I did Botox, right? My expression lines, which are like canyons. There they are. Yeah, I don't think I would have those if I had Botox. I see a question underneath. What was your favorite meal in Florence? My favorite meal in Florence was definitely the sandwich chic. Those sandwiches at that sandwich shop, which is, I posted on Instagram and I talked about when we vlogged. Any sandwich at that sandwich shop was my favorite meal. So good. And I know, so stupid, just a sandwich, but I loved the sandwiches. And I'm not a sandwich person. If you guys see me like prepare food at home or whatever, I'm never making myself a sandwich. It's not my thing. But I loved those sandwiches. I don't even think I can articulate what it was that made them so amazing. I mean, the whole experience was great. The gentlemen that worked there were amazing, super cute. They wore bow ties. The ingredients were really, really fresh. It was just great. So yeah, that was my favorite meal. Favorite part of visiting Italy. Can I say the sandwich shop in Florence? No, what I will say though is the food. I think in both Milan and Florence, I would say is the food. And not just, oh, it's delicious and it was, you know, a little bit different from here in America and, you know, the ingredients are fresh or whatever. But something I don't think I've talked about because it's never really come up, but whenever I go out to eat, I usually end up with a little bit of a stomach ache. Either like just like it feels a little uneasy to like, I gotta go to the bathroom, like anywhere in between there. And no matter what I eat when I go out, something light, just a salad, seafood, a burger, fries, it doesn't matter. My stomach will just react to it. When I was in Italy, not one stomach ache, not one stomach discomfort, nothing, the entire time. We're doing something to our food here in America, or we're preparing it in some crazy way, but that was so pleasant not to have any tummy ailments when I was in Italy. It was great. And of course, everything was delicious. Wow, okay, sorry, I had to take a break. I had a plumber come because I had like a drippy faucet. Okay, we're back. And I have more, more questions now, which is so great. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to write in. Here's one. Fave part about being on YouTube specifically, because I have a lot of favorite parts working for myself, but that's not necessarily just YouTube. I mean, I really like the community that I have built on YouTube, and I think that can really only have been achieved through like long form video. It really feels like I get to know you guys in the comments. I'm sure you guys feel like you've gotten to know me pretty well over the past several years that I've been on YouTube. And I think that it's like the next best thing, right? To actually hanging out and meeting people in person. I don't think you can get that on Instagram, TikTok, through a blog, like nothing like that. I think there's something very special about YouTube and being able to upload, an hour-long vlog. It really allows you guys to hang out with me and get to know me. And like I said, vice versa when it comes to like the comments and stuff. So I think that's my favorite part about being on YouTube. It really is a very unique and special social media platform. Yeah, really one of a kind. So that I would have to say is my favorite. How do you manage to stay so calm with all of the things you have going on, vlogs, reels, YouTube projects? You're not seeing all of me. I'm not always this calm. There was, I would say, was it last week? It was either last week or the week before, where it felt like every piece of technology was failing me. Everything was running slow. Everything was, failing to upload, failing to download. And I lost my cookies. Like I was so unhappy. I was angry eating. I was just angry. And so thank you for saying I stay so calm. But I am generally just kind of a calm person. I'm not that excitable. So I would have to say it kind of comes naturally to me. It does take a lot for me to get really riled up about something. It's experience. I've had a lot of jobs that have been very stressful, that have very short, quick deadlines. I've worked with difficult people, and it's experience. Like, this too shall pass, like that sort of saying. It's, that this is just a moment. It's just a moment in time and that it's going to pass. And knowing that allows me to stay calm and just like, okay, like, fine. Whatever it is, fine, let's just get through it. And I try not to get too excitable about whatever's right in front of me. I try not to sweat the small stuff. To quote one of the cheesiest books in the entire world. Your favorite saying, that's the question. At least one of my favorite sayings, I do say this a lot. I have two. The first one is check yourself. Always check yourself. I always tell people, I'm like, check yourself before you wreck yourself. No, honestly, it's like, just check it. Just keep it in check. Keep it cordial. I always say, I'm like, I can say what I need to get across in a nice way, always. So just check yourself in every shape or form. I also have another saying. I can't imagine that I made this up, but I did not get this from anywhere. This is something that I feel like I've come up with, but I'm sure it's been said 1,000 times. But this is sort of not only my favorite saying, but how I also live my life. And it is, don't do anything you're gonna regret, and don't regret anything that you've done. That's just how I live my life. So those are two of my favorite sayings. Not a question, just miss your makeup content. Oh, well, I still talk about makeup. Struggling to find new creator with same interests. There's so many new creators that love luxury makeup. There's Everyday Edit, there is Sherry Voyage, there is All Feisty. I mean, there's so many. If you do a search for a piece of luxury makeup that you enjoy, you're gonna come up with hundreds of YouTubers, hundreds. So Just do a search. Oh, and who are some of your other favorite beauty YouTubers? Well, I do love Everyday Edit, all the other ones that I just mentioned. I love Alana Davison. I mean, I love all of my friends. You know, Risa Does Makeup, Samantha March, Kate the Great Beauty, Lisa J, Glam Girl Chelsea, you know, just all the people I've collabed with over the years. They're all amazing. They're all amazing, amazing creators, amazing people. Yeah, I just adore them all. I hope I didn't forget anyone. And Kelsey Brianna J, I know she created another channel. I think it's the House of KBJ. Definitely check that out if you have not seen that. She's wonderful. Kinky Sweats, Alicia Archer, amazing. She talks a lot about luxury makeup and luxury brushes and things. God, there's so many out there. Yeah, I'm sure I'm forgetting hundreds, but I want to say what I view the most is still YouTube, and it's probably like 75% beauty. So yeah, there's a lot out there. There's a lot out there, and I watch a lot of it. What motivates you to work out when you don't feel like working out? Wow, that's tough. I think less thinking and less trying to actively motivate yourself in that moment. Less of any of that is really what's gonna work. At least for me, I know the minute I start thinking about it, thinking too long about it, thinking about all the other things I could be doing, thinking about how tired I am, that to me is the motivation killer. It's the killer of all things. But if I just get up, brush my teeth, put on my outfit and just walk out the door, it's like I'm already into working out before I've even realized what's happening. So for me, I need to work out in the mornings, preferably first thing. And a lot of that has to do with motivation. It's hard for me to change gears during the day. And then at the end of the day, it's like the last thing I want to do. And I know for my husband, it's the other way around. It's the last thing he wants to do in the morning. But after work, he's like, I'm already out and about. All I have to do is change my clothes. I go to a class. Like, he's fine with that. But it's, for me, it's like the last thing I want to do after working all day. So I guess maybe knowing your habits, knowing how you feel about things, whether morning or evening is better for you, lunchtime, if you work out of the house and you get like an hour break or something, maybe you can work out for a half hour. Yeah, but in terms of motivation, I think knowing that you're going to feel better once you're done, that going back to one of my one of my favorite sayings of don't regret anything you've done and don't do anything you're going to regret. It's like, I'm going to regret it. I'm going to regret it if I don't work out. I'm going to regret it all day. So like if I plan to work out in the morning and I don't do it, I've justified it for whatever reason. I'm tired. I'm going to sleep in, or I could work on this video instead. I'm going to regret it all day. I'm going to regret it until the next time I work out. And I know I'm not going to feel good about that decision. And like knowing that will motivate me to work out. It doesn't work out, you know, it doesn't work every time, right? Sometimes when we just don't want to, we just don't want to. And there's some days where, you know what, giving yourself a break could be a better thing. But if you're just getting into a routine, or if maybe working out is new to you, or you're just trying to implement a new schedule, just tell yourself you're going to regret it if you don't do it. And regret is a terrible, terrible feeling. It is just the killer of all joy. So yeah, that's what I would say. Keep telling yourself you're going to regret it if you don't work out. Okay, I think that was enough. I think I've been talking for hours, but thank you guys so much for like responding with all of these questions. I really, really appreciate it. And I guess that's it for this vlog. I think that's all I'll do. Otherwise, it's just going to go on forever. So thank you so much. And I will leave a link to this shorts that I put up on this latte makeup look. I really like it. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next one.